Hi, everybody. It's K Did. Welcome to Hear Our Voices. Today we have Sara as our guest, and she's also a person who lived through the homeless experience in New York City. So, Sara, tell me about your experience and how did you end up going to Path?
Could you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So hi, my name is Sara. Basically, pretty much how I ended up in the shelter was so everybody goes through their family issues and just certain things happen where it didn't work out, and I just found myself where I needed to be in the shelter. And it was just a very crazy experience because I could be honest and say I'm not used to um, being in a shelter. I've never experienced anything like this before. So it was very new to me, and to see how people treat you and just the way that the system tries to play people, it was very, very interesting, a very interesting experience for me, I would say.
Okay, so give us a walkthrough on how you heard about Path. How did you know? Like, who told you to go to Path, or did you already know about the whole shelter system in New York City?
Basically, I had a prior friend that I used to be friends with. She was staying in the shelter, and she had went through Path, and she had given me like a little bit of insight about Path. So I kind of just knew about it from her. And so basically, like from there, I was just like, okay, I know this place where they give you like immediate assistance, because with Path, they usually, it's not like, I noticed that it's not like anywhere like in the United States, because they place you as soon as you go there. And not a lot of places in, the United States in general do something like that.
Okay, that sounds cool. Lucky you had that person to tell you the information. So
Yeah.
when they finally placed you, right?
Yeah.
What borough did they place you in? How was the experience at the shelter?
Okay, so basically, I'm just gonna give you guys like the gist of as soon as you walk in type of thing. So, like, as soon as you walk in, basically, I feel like they treat people like it's just weird. They have metal detectors as soon as you go in, which it was kind of weird because it's a family shelter. You get what I'm saying? It's not like a men's shelter. It's not like a women's shelter. It was just weird. So you have to go through the metal detectors. They search your bag, stuff like that. And then you have to wait online. And basically, I would advise people, if you are going to the shelter, that you go extremely, extremely early. I would say like around 6 o'clock, because if you get there any later, you won't finish basically the process of completing the steps, basically, because there's like steps you have to go through in order to finish. You have to get interviewed. It's a whole process. And if you want to be like one of the people that are able to finish that process, so they don't send you somewhere for the night and you would have to come back to get placement, I would suggest you go really early, because nobody really wants to deal with being there all day. So pretty much after that, everybody needs to get their information. They don't let you in. From what I've experienced previously, they don't let you in if you don't have like your socials, the birth certificates, from what I've experienced. So I noticed that you need all your basically information for you and your children, especially if you're coming in with your partner, because I know a lot of people come in with their partner, and you either have to be domesticated, married, or the child has to be on basically the biological parent of the child. So that's pretty much like the first thing. They ask you, information like, why are you here, basically, in the front desk. And you have to write everything down, the last place that you stood at, why you can no longer be there, your information. And once you give that to them, they give you like a ticket number, and you have to go to that floor. So what I noticed was that because when I went in, it's a lot of people, and truth be told, the workers are, oh my gosh, the workers are very, very rude. And even if you could be the most nicest, sweetest person there, they'll treat you like you're just nothing. You get what I'm saying? So basically after that, they straight up told me to, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, keep talking. I'm listening. I'm
Okay,
putting on mute.
okay. Okay, cool. Basically, they straight up told me even when I was there, like, they don't necessarily place people like who are going through family situations. Like those are the people that they will like tell them to go back home. Those are the people that they deny, because people really are going through situations where they could really not stay with their family, and it was a serious family issue. But I was told because it was a family issue that I wouldn't be approved because of that. But I kind of like brushed that off because I don't try to think negative, and I knew God was gonna like help me get through the process. So pretty much after that, because with my certain case, it was like a violence involved, and things like that. They tend to look at family issues that are like violent or domestic violence cases. They're the ones that they put as priority that will be able to stay in the shelter, from what I've experienced and the information that I've gathered. So basically I had to mention that to them. But so it was one person, and then after that one person that gathered the information, it was a second person, and he was basically asking me questions like, they're gonna ask you how many beds, how many, because if you, let's say for example, you live with your mom, right, and it's just you and your mom, and there's 2 bedrooms there. The fact that you even told them that there was 2 bedrooms there, they will automatically like cut you out for that, because they feel like, oh, they have somewhere to stay, they don't need to be here. Basically they're basically going to tell you you have to go to court and demand like for you basically to stay there and things like that. So, and I've even spoke to someone who had gotten denied because they had said that they told them how many rooms was in there, and they automatically just denied them because of that. So really, I've learned when you're talking to these people and you're saying things, you cannot even say certain things, for the simple fact is you won't get a place to stay if you say those things. And the only way you would eat, and if you get denied, you have to basically just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming just to have a place to stay. And a lot of people have jobs, so they're not able to just keep coming and keep coming. But they really don't care about that, and they will have you keep coming and keep coming no matter what. So basically after that, they when the last step is basically they send you downstairs, and that's where your placement is. But trust me, when you go downstairs, it's gonna be like another 3, 4, 5 hours before you could even get placed. It's a long process. And when you do get placed, they don't ask you where your child goes to school. They don't ask you where your job is. They don't care about none of that. They specifically tell you you're gonna be here, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I didn't have a choice where I was going. Fortunately, I was in Brooklyn, so that wasn't hard for me because I already knew the area of Brooklyn. I already lived in Brooklyn, so it was just more convenient for me. But I've seen people argue with the people at the desk, like, hey, can you please change this? You know, you're sending me to Staten Island, and they will literally place people in Staten Island knowingly they work like in Brooklyn, or their kids go to school in Brooklyn, and then you have to be at the shelter at a certain time, which makes absolutely no sense in a way. So basically, there was that. They give you like an option if you want to go get transported there, which you have to stay longer for, or they just give you like a metro card and you can go by yourself, which I chose to just go by myself just because that was just my preference. I didn't really want to be there anymore. It was really a uncomfortable situation. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of people arguing. I would say because of the workers who work there are just so rude and nasty, literally for no reason. So that was pretty much my experience going in. I also forgot to mention, when you do go, this is like what could make or break you, in my opinion. um in the last step, they tell you you need 5 years worth of income, worth of proof where you were living. And that's where things get like a lot tricky for people, because they tell you either you need a lease, you need about 3 pieces of mail for over the 5 years, which is outrageous to me, because I don't know, there's some people, but there's a lot of people that don't keep 3 pieces of utility bills or mailed like that they want for 5 years for each month of that year. So that's where my issue came from, because I had got denied the first time because of that issue. So it was really hard gathering information just like that. So I would let people know before going in that that's also what you need. But you can also, like I said, you can ask someone to write a letter for you, which is like what I did, which is the most easiest thing to do, which is get a letter from the person that you were staying with. Um, hey, they used to stay here, they can't stay here anymore, and that's just what it is. That's just what it is. And they'll probably 8 times, 7 times out of 10, they will photo verify and just tell that person that they said that you cannot stay there. And that's just what it is. Like basically they would sometimes, I don't know if they did it to me, but what they usually do is when they tell you that they're going to send people to your home to like investigate the situation to see if you really don't have beds to sleep in, if you really can't stay there. And my advice to people is, if that happens, just tell the person that's staying there you cannot stay there and they cannot come in, because that's the only way that it's really like a process to the situation. You really have to like think through your steps, which is, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's the truth. You really have to, that's what I learned, and that's what helped me, and that's what helps me help people, because I gave this information, a lot of like tips and tricks to handle the situation, which helped a lot of people that reached out to me because of my YouTube channel, that reached out to me asking me, how do I do this, how do I do that, what do I say? And I would literally just, I would take the time out of my day and just send paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs how to literally go about the situation to be approved. So yeah.
So you said, like you said before, you have a YouTube channel. Do you want to put
Yeah.
your name out there? What the YouTube channel name is?
I think it's I can't believe I'm saying I think, but it's Iconic's mother. Usually, because you know how sometimes on YouTube you could search her name and it won't pop up.
Yes.
Uh, that's the struggle with me.
So I'll put the description, if you send me the link, down below,
Yeah.
and I could put it attached to this podcast, guys. So you can go and see her and her story and what she's up to lately. She has not put anything on there a lot recently, but we're gonna try to get her out there and get more subscribers, and also tell more probably in depth of her story. So I have a question from before you even get to the rest of your story. How much times have you got denied, and what did you do to get through that process? Did you actually go through the fair hearing process, or did you just start a new application?
Um, Basically, So, okay, this is how it went for me at first, because I didn't mention the first time that I went to PATH before I even took PATH serious, because I was going through things and I went to PATH actually to fill it out. I would say to like give me a just of like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go through this situation? Because at the end of the day, I believe PATH is a good, like, even though it's what's messed up, the situation and how people treat you and the process, it does help, like, to give you that extra push and to give you like to really see what the world is like and how people really are and how the system is to you, like. But like I was saying, when I first went to PATH originally, I had got denied that first time, and which it was weird because when I had went, they had told me they didn't even offer me a voucher during that time. They didn't even say, hey, we have these options. For some reason, the case manager had said to me, oh, we don't offer that. And you need to, we're going to be looking at your bank statements. You need to save money while you're here. Just all these things. And they didn't tell me anything like about a voucher. So I don't know really what that was about, but he ended up calling us and saying we weren't eligible because of the 5 year, the proof of the 5 years. So that was the first time I had got denied, and I never went back because when I was filling out the situation, it was kind of like, okay, I got denied, like what I had to figure out what I was gonna do next during that situation. So I ended up staying back home again for that situation, and then other things started happening again, which at that point I was like, you know what, I have to just do this shelter and just stick it out. Just if I gotta keep going, I gotta keep going. So the second time I ended up going, which was the situation I had talked about previously, they had denied me because, like I was saying, the proof of, again, the where you were staying. I used to live in Florida, and that specific like proof that I needed to give, which I would also, disclaimer, when you go in, just say you only lived in one place, because if you keep giving them all these addresses, that's what I didn't learn before, it gets very complicated and very a very sticky situation. So if you're able to put one address where you lived for 5 years, I would suggest you do that. So when they had told me that I was denied, I personally, they didn't tell me about a fair hearing during that time. My case manager, unfortunately, um, she was not attentive as she should have been, which I just want to let you know, a lot of case managers really do not care, and they really won't tell you anything, and they really won't do anything to help you. It's all, honestly, no matter what, it's all up to you. And that's what helped me, because I just did it all up to me all up to me. So I just went back and I redid the process again, but this time where I corrected my mistake. I ended up getting a letter from where that Florida situation, and that pretty much cleared up the whole situation. And then when you get approved, your case manager comes upstairs to tell you that you were approved. And fortunately enough, I was approved, and so I only got denied twice, and I never been through a fair hearing before.
Okay. It's interesting that you said you need proof of 5 years. Probably because you came from a different state. Because when I was there, I lived there all my life. I only
Really?
needed 2 years worth of proof. So that's very
Wow.
interesting on what
Yeah.
different people say. I want to know, if I call right now or whatever, will they tell me the right information? Because I've never heard 5 years, but I'm not saying it didn't happen, because obviously it happened to you, that you have to bring that information in. But it's weird that they'll have two different people have two different numbers for something. To me, I would think so basic,
Yeah.
So that's very
Yeah.
interesting how we can go through the like same thing happening to us, but it's so
Yeah.
two different things. That's so weird.
Yes, I know. But disclaimer though, I've always lived in New York. I went to Florida, like I said, because of the situations like that was going on with my family. But I've lived in New York and Brooklyn my whole entire life, in Williamsburg my whole entire life. So I'm not sure why they said 5 years, because even when I would speak to a lot of females that hit me up, they tell me as well, like they asked for 5 years. How long ago were you in the shelter?
I left the shelter 2018.
Oh, that's not long. That was only like 3 years ago.
Yeah. But I
Wow.
went when I officially went to shelter, it was 2015 the first time, and I think it went 2016 the other time, because I had to do 2 different times that I left the country. But yeah, it's not
Yeah.
that long ago. So I'm like, it's so interesting that you say I'm like 5 years. I've never heard that number.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's not possible, because obviously you went through that, you know? So I'm definitely gonna look it up and see what they say, because oh man, it's
Yeah.
a lot of problems, you know.
It is a lot of problems. Like they don't even tell you like what you're about to like throw yourself into when you go into that situation. A lot of these, even with like your case in general, like your public assistant case, one person would say one thing, another person would say another thing, and it's very basically it's just disorganized, very disorganized.
I definitely agree with that. So I have a question for you. It's like maybe a big question, but
Yeah.
maybe small questions. If you had to change, I would say 2 things about your process or your ordeal with this shelter, what would the answer be?
Wow, that's a good question. Honestly, I don't want to be like sound cliche or anything, but I don't think I would have changed anything, because when I went in there, I went straight in there and I had this mindset of I need to get out of here. You got what I'm saying? I cannot be here because of everything that was going on. And I think that push, that just everything that was going on, like pushed me more and more and more to just want to leave and leave. So I did everything that I could to just leave. I was non-stop looking at apartments, like, and that's what made me reconnect with YouTube again, because I was already doing YouTube. If you go back, I put a lot of videos on private, due to like an old relationship. So I put a lot of my old videos on private, but I was already doing YouTube years ago. And just being in the shelter, when I seen what was going on, I'm like, you know what? I have to make this video, because I'm pretty sure, I know there's a lot of families in New York that watch YouTube and they need this one information that nobody is telling anybody. So I was like, let me just post that. And then a lot of people, like I got a lot of feedback off of it. So I would say that I would change things on their part. Like, for example, like how they can be better and how they can change. But I don't think, I don't know. Like, that's really a good question, because like as I'm speaking, I'm trying to think like what would I change? Like what would I do? Maybe just like go in and be more prepared. Like I would have been more prepared, so I wouldn't have went through that little hiccup that I went through. I would say that, and just ignore a lot of things, because I seen a lot of things that was happening, and I got into arguments with a few people because I just couldn't like accept the way I was being treated. So maybe I would have just been a little more like nonchalant, I wish, and just ignored a lot of people during that situation. But I'm glad I'm out of it though.
All right, we're gonna get to some other stuff now. So, tell us how it was in the shelter itself when you finally got there, your first day, if you can remember, how the workers treat you, how was your room, how much space did it give you, and things like that.
Yeah, I'm laughing now because now that I think about it, it was a lot. Like, so when I first came in, let me picture that in my brain actually. When I first came in, what they do is I had gotten there like at 11 at night, because I had came straight from the shelter, so I went straight there. So I went there. And basically they bring you to, okay, so some shelters, let me disclaimer again, some shelters, they are tier 2 shelters and they are hotel shelters. Tier 2 shelters are where you get your own key to the door, you get your own stovetop, you get just those, it looks like a studio apartment, I would say. And hotel shelters are just hotels. Like you're in a hotel. There's only a microwave, a tiny fridge, and that's it. That's all you get. So when I went in, they asked for your information. They ask you to sign papers. They ask for a lot of things, and basically you have to sign those documents. And they're very, as well, they're very heavy on the baby sleeping with no blankets and stuff in the crib. So they will like, they come in your room too without you like they just come in, they like, which was another issue. Yeah.
They do.
Yo, and it's crazy to me how somebody can just walk in your room like nothing, like as if you get no privacy. It's bad enough that they check you when you come in times, is that in the third, like people, like I understand why they do, but at the same time, people, just because we came to the shelter doesn't mean we don't have lives. You got what I'm saying? Doesn't mean we don't deserve to either go out with our kids late or just be outside. Like, you got what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't mean that you don't deserve to just, like live.
Be a person. Be a
Exactly,
human.
yes. So it's crazy to me. So after you sign the papers, they bring you up to your room. They kind of like go over like basically the gist of it. No blankets in the bed. They come in like, I would say 4 times a week to look through your, to see if it's clean or whatever. And they basically, you got to do a sign in every night. Which was whatever. Like, I didn't agree with it, but I have no choice but to agree with it. So basically, I was the type of person, because cleaning ladies still came, and they cleaned your room and stuff. But I, if anybody knows me, knows that I'm a private person. So I would just like, sometimes I would let them come in, sometimes I won't, just because in the hotel, it's a rug. So it's kind of hard to clean, like when, because you have kids and kids make messes, especially when you're in like, the hotel was tiny. It was a one queen size bed hotel. It wasn't like the queen size bed where, oh my gosh, you have large space. No, it's one of those where it's very tiny.
You're lucky. My first I was when I was in the hotel. Well, my last shelter was a hotel. I went to 4 different shelters in a matter of a year and like 4 months.
Wow.
And the one I stayed in for the longest was a tiny room. The room was tiny. I had my daughter's stroller. I had a TV, a desk, but I got a twin bed. It was not a queen bed, a twin. And I'm big, so I'm not skinny. So I'm in a twin bed this whole time.
What I think it is? You know what I think it is? I think, like I told you, what they do is they count beds, they count people, and because it was you and your daughter, they just think in their whatever brain that one adult should be sleeping on a twin size bed, which is not okay. You know what I'm saying? But that's what they're thinking in their brain. Like, they just think that they can do like things like that, and it's just not okay. Like, the space that I was in, it was 3 of us, but 3 of us, and the way the room was structured, like, it's not like I was saying, it's not like a queen size where it's like, you have that space. No, like, I could barely move my body around in the room. It was very, very tight. And it was also the baby's bed there too, because they, like you said, they provide did they provide a bed for your daughter?
And the first room we had at that hotel, every hotel I've been to, she got a crib because she wasn't 2 yet. When she was 2, they changed our room to a bigger room. The room I was in, I want to put the video on YouTube, but I haven't done it yet. The room was big compared to that small room. Probably was like 2 or 3 rooms in one.
Yeah,
and then,
I've been in one of those. Yeah. The first one I went to, I know exactly what you're talking about. They just, it's just crazy. And the fact that you had to just constantly move and move and move, that's also messed up thing about it. And basically I had, oh my God, I don't even like saying it.
So we have come to the end of this particular podcast, but as you could tell from the way it ended just abruptly like that, come back next week and figure out what she's trying to say and tell us the rest of her story. She has a good amount left to tell you and give you some insight about what's happening and what happened to her in the shelter. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you tell a friend and tell another friend to tell the world about this podcast. We might be branching out to other things in the homeless sector. So if you have any ideas, any questions, any things like that, you can definitely go on Twitter and Instagram and inbox us. And we'll be happy to give out the information. If you're a person who used to be homeless and want to be interviewed on the podcast, we welcome you here. And also, we're going to have down below Sarah's YouTube channel that she has, like we talk about in the segment. Also, if you're a person who helps out homeless people and want to bring your expertise of what your job does, we would love to have that also on here to be able to help more people and get people off the streets and also out of shelters. You are important. You are amazing. And you should be treated as a person who matters. When you're in the shelter or even on the street, make sure you advocate for yourself to get better for you and your family. Thank you for coming to our podcast, Hear Our Voices, and I can't wait to hear from you next week. Also, we're trying to do a question of the week on Twitter. So if you have any questions that you think we should ask the masses and see what everybody's opinion is about, I would definitely like to hear what that could be. So you can inbox us on, the information's in the description. I have a lot of Twitter and Instagram accounts to remember, so I don't remember everything, but it's definitely going to be down below so you can get it. So thank you again for coming. See you next time.